Imagine a country that, until 90 years ago, was almost nothing but camels, tribes, and palm trees. And today, the same country has become the world's largest oil exporter and owner of the world's most profitable company, Saudi Aramco. This country is Saudi Arabia. But the question is, how did the first oil well, discovered in 1938, turn this desert into a multi-billion-dollar economy? How did Petrodollar, Aramco, and Vision 2030 together lay the foundation for Saudi to go from an oil empire to a tech superpower of the future? Let's know that tremendous story of Saudi Arabia from the beginning, and know how Saudi Arabia built a $1 trillion oil and vision empire. Chapter 1: History and the Establishment of the Kingdom. The modern history of Saudi Arabia began in 1932, when Ibn Saud combined the Najd and Hijaz regions to form today's Saudi Arabia. Even before that, in the 18th century, the Saudi dynasty had built a kingdom, but it could not stand in front of the British-backed Hashemite family. Ibn Saud reaffirmed the Saudi dynasty by capturing Riyadh in 1902 and took control of the whole of Central Arabia over the next 20 years. When he founded a unified Saudi Arabia in 1932, efforts to find oil followed. Meanwhile, in May 1931, the US granted official recognition to Saudi Arabia, and Ibn Saud allowed Standard Oil of California to explore for oil in the eastern region. This was the beginning of the journey that transformed Saudi Arabia into the world's largest oil empire. Chapter 2: Oil Exploration and the Rise of Aramco. The discovery of oil in Saudi Arabia began before World War II, and in 1938, the Dammam well number 7 near Dhahran, later called the Prosperity Well, was the first commercial oil to come out of it. Production then grew exponentially. By 1949, it had reached 500,000 barrels per day, and by 1958, it had risen to over 1 million barrels per day. This exploration and production was conducted by the Arabian-American Oil Company, i.e. Aramco. In the 1970s, the Saudi government began to take a stake in Aramco, starting at 25% in 1973, and by 1980, the company was fully under government control, renamed Saudi Aramco. Aramco had become one of the world's largest oil producers by 1971, when it was extracting more than 4.49 million barrels of oil per day. It continues to dominate today. In 2022, Aramco generated a net profit of over $161 billion and recorded revenue of $535 billion, making it one of the richest and most valuable companies in the world. Chapter 3: The Global Oil Market and Saudi's Role in OPEC. Saudi Arabia is one of the biggest forces in the global oil market. It is a founding member of the Organization of the Oil Exporting Countries, OPEC, formed in 1960 and has the highest production capacity in the organization. For this reason, Saudi Arabia's role is most important in decisions such as increasing or decreasing oil production. For example, during the 1973 oil crisis, Saudi joined forces with other Arab countries to cut off oil supplies to Western countries, causing oil prices to skyrocket all over the world. In addition, Saudi formed the OPEC Plus group together with non-OPEC countries such as Russia to control the supply and price of oil. When Saudi and Russia together decided to reduce oil production in October 2022, tensions in its relations with the US also increased. In this way, Saudi decisions on oil policy and production directly affect the global energy market and oil prices. Chapter 4: The Petrodollar System. The dominance of the US dollar in oil trade is linked to the close relationship between Saudi Arabia and the US. After the OPEC crisis in 1974, an agreement was made that the purchase and sale of oil from most countries, including Saudi Arabia, would be done only in US dollars. This is the reason why even today international oil transactions, especially deals with Saudi Arabia, are done in dollars. This system is called the Petrodollar System. This gave the US the advantage that countries around the world needed dollars to buy oil, so that the demand and strength of the dollar remained constant. Chapter 5: Economic Strength, GDP, Exports, Aramco, and Public Investment Funds. The largest base of Saudi Arabia's economy is oil, but at the same time, it is one of the strongest economies in the world. Its GDP in 2024 was approximately $1.24 trillion. Oil also dominates exports. For example, out of the total 97.1 billion Saudi Riyal exports in May 2023, about 72 billion Saudi Riyal came from oil alone, i.e., about 74%. The largest Saudi company is Aramco, which generated revenue of approximately 416 billion Saudi riyal and a net profit of 103 billion Saudi riyal in Q3 of 2024. A large part of this earnings and oil-related resources are now invested in the country's public investment fund. By 2024, the public investment fund's net worth reached $925 billion, placing it in sixth place among the world's largest sovereign wealth funds. With the help of this fund, Saudi Arabia is now investing not only in oil, but also in global technology, energy, and industries on a large scale. Chapter 6. Vision 2030. Diversification and Big Goals. Vision 2030 is Saudi Arabia's new economic plan, launched by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in 2016. Its main objective is to reduce dependence on oil and promote other industries such as tourism, entertainment, mining, and technology. Under this plan, it was decided to increase non-oil revenue manifold and increase the share of the private sector to 65% of GDP. The results are already beginning to show. Non-oil revenues increased by 113% from 2016 to nearly $137 billion. Unemployment fell to just 7% in the fourth quarter of 2024, achieving 5 years ahead of the set target. Women's participation has also increased, and now about 36% of women are in the workforce. Religious tourism also set a record. Around 16.9 million Umrah pilgrims arrived in Saudi Arabia in 2024. Along with this, Saudi Arabia is also working on big projects, such as the $500 billion NEOM city to be built in the desert, which is being made a hub of future technology and industry. Overall, Vision 2030 has given a strong direction to the Saudi economy, but it remains to be seen how sustainable this journey will be beyond oil. Chapter 7. Public investment funds and megaprojects. The Public Investment Fund is the biggest weapon of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030, which is helping the country build a new economy out of oil. In 2017, the fund made a major investment of $45 billion in Japan's SoftBank Vision Fund. In addition, it invested more than $1 billion in electric car maker Lucid Motors and also bought a stake in a ride-hailing company like Uber. The fund also ventured into sports and entertainment. In October 2021, the group led by this fund bought England's football club Newcastle United. Also, Public Investment Fund is working on several mega projects such as NEOM City, Red Sea Project, and Chidia. All of them are trying to give Saudi Arabia a new identity and new ways of earning apart from oil. Chapter 8. International Relations and Regional Politics. Saudi Arabia is considered to be the most important player in Middle East politics and strategy. It has long been a close ally of the US. The US gives security and weapons to the Saudis, while the Saudis sell oil in dollars in return. But in recent years, there has also been a strain in relationships. For example, during the Russia-Ukraine war in 2022, Saudi collaborated with Russia to reduce oil production, which angered the US. Saudi relations with neighboring countries have also been sometimes good and sometimes bad. In 2017, the Saudi, UAE, Egypt, and Bahrain imposed economic sanctions on Qatar, but these countries came together again in the 2021 Al-Ula Agreement. In addition, since 2015, the Saudis have also been involved in the fighting in Yemen, which caused a huge humanitarian crisis there. Overall, Saudi Arabia has tried to maintain a constant rapport and political balance with the US, Europe, Russia, and its neighbors. Chapter 9. Social change and human rights reform. Along with oil earnings in Saudi Arabia, there have been changes in society as well. Under Vision 2030, women were given new rights, such as in June 2018, women were allowed to drive. This will allow millions of women to now travel on their own. In addition, women are now becoming more visible in cinemas, sports grounds, and public events as well. The government has also set a target that more women join jobs and work. Education, health, and salaries have also been reformed. However, the freedom to speak openly in politics or to criticize the government is still limited, and these matters continue to be strict. That is, society is gradually opening up and modernizing, but challenges to political freedom and human rights still remain. Chapter 10. Economic challenges and unemployment. Saudi Arabia's economy is heavily dependent on oil, and this is also its biggest challenge. The country has a large youth population, but it is not easy to get jobs for everyone. It is still difficult for young people to get jobs after completing their studies. However, the unemployment rate has decreased, due to Vision 2030. It declined from 12.8% in 2018 to 7.1% in 2025. Yet, unemployment among young people between the ages of 15 and 24 is around 11.6%, which is a matter of concern. Fluctuations in oil prices also affect the Saudi economy. If prices fall, the budget deficit increases. In addition, the slow pace of private sector growth and infrastructure reform can increase social tensions. To solve these problems, the government is promoting education, skill development, and starting new businesses so that the youth can get better opportunities. Chapter 11. Oil Asset Management. The money made from oil has been handled in different ways by different countries. Norway, for example, has invested oil earnings around the world through its government pension fund Global. It is the largest fund in the world, with approximately $1.938 trillion in assets. The United Arab Emirates has created the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, which has a net worth of over $1.11 trillion. Qatar's government investment fund is worth about $524 billion. Similarly, Saudi Arabia's public investment fund has now joined the ranks of these countries with a net worth of $930 billion. The difference is that Norway and the UAE focused on long-term sustainability by safeguarding oil earnings, while Saudi Arabia began to put this money into rapid development, large projects, and international investments under its Vision 2030. Each country's approach is different. Some chose stability, some diversified rapidly, but all have the same goal: to turn oil earnings into sustainable growth. If you enjoyed this enlightening journey, don't forget to like and subscribe to the video.